Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Instead We Made a Pod. My name is Adam, and I'm joined by my lovely co-host MJ. MJ, how are you, darling?
Hi, I'm okay. It feels really weird that national final season is at an end now. Um,
Mm-hmm.
this is kind of it, and we've nearly got all the songs. It just feels
Mm-hmm.
like it's come around so quickly. Um,
Yeah, I agree. It's really flown by, and we have such a strong kind of class of artists this year. Obviously, there's one country in particular that I prefer if they weren't at the contest, and that's kind of tainted things a little bit over the last while.
you and me
Um, yeah, and for anyone listening, we did a space on this where we talked about it extensively, and there was a lot of really great links to Palestinian aid in there. I would highly recommend anyone to go and check that out. We're not going to rehash things on the podcast as well because the both of us spoke on that space, and it's recorded, so you can go and find it on Twitter at the Phoenix CSC. But it's just a case of we've spoken about this, and it's just a topic that gets me really, really riled up. If you want to go and listen to what we as a duo and what Phoenix, how our views on the situation regarding a certain country's participation this year, I would highly recommend going to listen to that space.
definitely. We have been quite open as a fan site on where we stand in that whole debate. We were one of the first fan sites to actually take quite a hard line about it as well, which I'm very proud of. And if you haven't listened to our spaces, we do record all of them. So if you're not completely sick of hearing mine and Adam's voices, the spaces have the added benefit of having other people as well. So
Yes. It's cool that we've kind of reached the end of another season, and I think as a lot of Euro fans, like national final season is almost more fun than
yeah,
Eurovision at times, I would say.
I explained to my
Um,
husband that it's kind of like my World Cup.
yeah, yeah. It's great. Sad that it's over, but I'm kind of ready now to kind of sit with the songs that we have rather than just have things thrown at me every single weekend. So yeah, I think I'm happy enough that kind of we're wrapping up with national final season. And of course the second last national final of the year is Melfest, and that is what we're going to be covering today. MJ, me and you watched Melfest together. What did you make of it?
So this year was actually quite a special one for me with Melfest because for the first time I applied for and was granted press accreditation to help cover Melfest for Phoenix, which
Woo!
yeah, big thank you to SVT first and foremost for letting me do that. And yeah, really great delegation to actually have accreditation for the amount of content that they give you access to and their communication and even just like one-on-one communication with, the people that do work for them was just so great and it was really nice. Definitely hope that I can do that again at some point in the future and maybe go to Melfest one day because I had a great time watching all of the rehearsals and it was really great. It was really fun getting to see everything before most people had, but it was also
Mm-hmm.
difficult keeping quiet about some things. Um, which I'm sure we'll talk about later. I was very glad that Liv, who writes for Phoenix, was also granted press accreditation and covering it with me because it meant that there was someone I could DM and go, "Oh my god, are you seeing this? This is insane." So I wasn't just shouting into the void because I couldn't really go into too much detail or share too much about what was going on with people who didn't have accreditation.
Yeah. And I
It's
think oh, sorry, go ahead, MJ.
no, go on, go on.
Oh, I think for me as a spectator this year, I've never really felt as disconnected with Melfest as I did this year. I just think the overall quality was just not there. And I think this has been a trend in Melfest for quite a while where the quality has dipped.
Yes.
And it just kind of seems to me that realistically, if you took out Air and Tattoo from last year, that would have been such a weak year as well. They have one or two gems every year, but the rest of the stuff, like, I mean, some of the stuff that was in that final was just bad. Would do nothing at Eurovision. Just not great songs. So I'm a bit disappointed in Melfest in that way, and I really hope that we see some changes coming in. I hope that maybe, we maybe see some more genres come in and some more diversity in the producers and the writers. I think a lot of fans are kind of in agreement of that, whether you're a Melfest fan or not. I think it's now, without a doubt, some real change needs to happen. Melfest was the pinnacle of national finals, and it just isn't anymore. There are national finals that are doing it better. I know we covered it, but Vidbeer was insane this year in terms of song quality and diversity. UMK, even though it wasn't as strong as last year, the lineup was still really, really impressive. Melfest, it just didn't seem that strong. It seems to have kind of lost its crown for me a bit.
Yeah, I am inclined to agree. It was obviously really great fun getting to watch the whole process. And I think you can't fault the production value of Melfest. They always do a really good job at making it really slick and efficient and everything like that. But I do think that in terms of the contest itself, it needs a really big shake-up at this point.
Mm-hmm.
They obviously tried to make some changes that maybe didn't work so well.
Nope.
The thing that I kind of felt, and we did a space recently where we talked about Melfest, and Simon Falk from Wee Wee Blogs came on. He's been covering Melfest really extensively. I think he said he's done about 75 interviews on Melfest alone.
God help him.
Yeah, take that out of you, Simon. Could never be me. But he was saying, and I really agreed with him about the predictability of it. I found that more or less every single week, I knew which two artists were going to go direct to final. I generally had a pretty good idea about who was going to go into that runoff vote. And it was a shame because more often than not, it was the same artists that we've seen in a lot of iterations of Melfest. When only one newcomer makes it directly to the final, it's kind of a sign that things have been allowed to stagnate a little bit. And, even when you look at the songwriters, Jimmy Joker had 5 songs in the final alone.
Yeah, that's ridiculous.
Yeah, that's crazy. And okay, yeah, well done, Jimmy Joker. Clearly you write some really great songs, but also, where's the variety? Where's the flavour, I think it does need a big shake-up, and I think the good thing about Sweden in the past, when things have sort of not gone so well, is that they have recognised that and amended things. For example, I don't think we're getting that runoff vote ever again.
Jesus Christ, no. That was a disaster.
Yeah, because as predicted, obviously the people that had just competed in Heat 5 went through instead of...
Yeah, I mean, we were going to talk about this later, but let's talk about it now.
Yeah.
That was a fucking joke.
Yeah, we were furious. We watched it together, didn't we? And we were just
and it was it was so ridiculous because obviously if you're going to put a vote the same night that some of the acts performed, they're going to get a preference because there's people that might have literally only tuned into that night, or it's fresh in someone's mind and they're kind of gutted that the act didn't go direct to final, so they're going to vote for it again. It doesn't make any sense. And then we lost some really strong, great songs in that runoff vote. And realistically, to expect all of these artists to stop what they're doing, go down to wherever it was, it wasn't in Stockholm, but somewhere in Sweden, for that vote.
Karlstad.
To go to Karlstad and then literally walk them into the green room, sit them down for 15 minutes and then make them leave again because it was pointless for any of them to be there. It was so stupid. It was so ridiculous. And it meant that we lost some really good songs to have 2 very weak, generic songs in the final. It just wasn't.
Realistically, if those songs had been in Heat 1 or Heat 2, they wouldn't have...
No, they would have come last.
Yeah, it was all a memory game, basically. They were the last songs people had heard, so they voted for them.
Light sounded like something you'd hear on Euro Song 2022.
It's giving Adele.
Yeah, no, literally though, it's giving Ashes of Yesterday. It's giving Janet Rogan. It was such a bad song. The fact that is in a Melfest final is such a joke because that song was god awful. The thing is, I can kind of get Back to Your Roots or Back to My Roots. But
Back to my
like,
roots.
back to my roots. I get that because there's a market for that. You know what I mean? There was nothing really like it in the final. It's got like a little bit of like a divorced dad rock
I
country
was just
vibe
about to
thing.
say, you're only defending it because I know you're a bit of a lover of divorced
I
dad
look,
music.
I don't mind a little bit of divorced dad music every now and then. Like I'll put my hands up, but
For the
like
listeners of
the
this podcast, Adam once tried to convince me to go and see Nickelback with him.
yeah, love Nickelback. They're great. Um, I think the thing is like, but at least that's like different. Whereas we've seen and heard songs like Light a million times, not only in Melfest, but every single national final across Europe. It's such a bog standard, paint by numbers, wannabe power ballady, slow song kind of thing. And it's just so overdone and so bad. And like the fact that that made a Melfest final says so much about where Melfest is.
Yeah, no, 100% agree with you. I guess from songs that we didn't like and things that we think really need to change about Melfest, then we'll talk about some songs that we did like. Uh,
Yes.
as we, as with previous national final episodes, where there are a lot more songs than just a handful, or our rewatch episodes, we are going to talk about our top five. We've done our top five of the final, but I think we'll probably want to spend some time later talking about the songs that we loved that didn't make it. Because
Yeah.
I have a few, and I would imagine you do as well, Adam.
I have one. I did not
We'll
enjoy
talk about
I did not enjoy Melfest this year.
it. Yeah, but I know there's one song you absolutely love that didn't make it because I was in Manchester and I saw your reaction when it didn't make it through.
Yes, very
We'll
much
we'll talk
so.
about it later.
So I guess I will start off with my fifth place then. And my fifth place was Medina with Que Sera. I get why it got so much hype, but it's not as good as everyone said it was. You know what I mean? It's good, but it's not like this amazing song that like I don't get people who are like, "Oh my God, this is incredible." It was a pretty bog standard 2010 to 2014 FIFA World Cup song. And like that's all well and good, but it just sounded so dated. And in my opinion, they had the sloppiest performance of the night. It just didn't seem as slick as everyone else. The song is really fun and I enjoy it, but I will not be streaming this song. You know what I mean? The fact that this is my fifth and this is what I'm saying about it says a lot, I think, about how Belfast went for me this year. It just wasn't as good as everyone said it was. I will grant it that like it was better than a lot of the stuff that was in the final. But yeah, just pretty dated, bog standard stuff. Nothing special about it, and I don't get why it got so much hype. I really don't. MJ, what's your fifth place?
My fifth place was Heroes Are Calling by Smash Into Pieces. I think the problem with having so many returnees this year, and quite a lot of recent returnees as well, is that inevitably,
Everything sounded the same as it did when they went the first time.
yeah, and also inevitably you end up comparing it to what's come before, and you either like it better or you don't. For me, I definitely preferred 6 Feet Under last year. Obviously, me and Adam have both talked about the fact that we're kind of rock girlies. 6 Feet Under really reminded me of Linkin Park's first album, Hybrid Theory, which I was old enough to have on CD when it came out.
Hmm.
And the big seminal album in sort of formulating the music taste of, Little MJ. I thought Heroes Are Calling was similar to 6 Feet Under, but like almost like a more watered down version of it in a way.
Yeah, we have 6 feet under at home.
Yeah, and I almost felt like with Heroes Are Calling, give it to a different singer, give it to a pop singer, and it's a fairly standard song. Really, the thing that's elevating
Sorry.
it is that kind of rock
Sorry.
sound.
I've just imagined Daughter doing Heroes Are Calling now.
No, but change. So give her that song with her voice in a different arrangement, and like, there's nothing particularly rocky about
And she'd sing it as badly as she did. It's not easy to
it.
write you a love song.
I felt like 6 Feet Under had a bit of edge to it that kind of Heroes Are Calling. The only edge that was really being brought was the musicians themselves. I will say
Yeah, like
they
I will say, very well staged and very well
oh
performed.
yeah, and they performed the heck out of it. And it did go up in my rankings because of that. I think they really sold it. I think it's
Hmm.
really funny that Smash Into Pieces came third for the second year in a row, but like no one really noticed that that had happened again. Um, they're just destined to come third every single year. I do hope they come
It's
back.
giving Ollie. It's
It's
giving
giving
Ollie.
Ollie, it's giving Raven until they just selected her internally. Slovenia, just always a bridesmaid, never a bride. I really hope they come back. I hope they come back with something that's maybe a bit more with them in it. And I really hope that they win because I would love to see Sweden send rock. It's not something that we ever associate with Sweden at Eurovision. I liked it because I really like what Smash Into Pieces do. I preferred 6 Feet Under.
I will move on then with my fourth place, and that was Jacqueline with Effortless. I had this as my second place in the lead up to the final. And I know she was sick, so I'm not going to be too hard on her, but I have to base it off the performance on the night of the final. And it just was not there. The studio cut of this track, really good, really catchy. I really need to see a drag queen perform this. I've spoken about this so many times, but I just want to see a drag queen perform Effortless. It's such a drag queen coded song. It's slick pop. It's the same team that did Tattoo. So like I get how this is so slick and so put together. Obviously, I don't think anything was ever going to reach the heights of Tattoo, but that's not to do with Tattoo the song. That's to do with who was performing Tattoo. Do you know what I mean? Whereas this was very well put together, a very solid song, and it definitely deserved to do better than it did. But the performance in the night, she obviously was just not well, and it just didn't come across well. MJ, your fourth place.
My fourth place, and again, it was after seeing all the songs in the final, was also Effortless by Jacqueline. I am heartbroken at how this turned out because at one point it was actually my winner. I remember when I first saw this in Jacqueline's Heat, and I remember watching the first rehearsal, and I was like, "Oh my God, this is great." It was
Mm.
giving kind of almost like an award show performance, you know, the big prop that kind of rose and fell at the beginning and the end of the
No,
song.
don't talk about props falling. Donny Cicero will appear.
The prop that purposefully looked like it rose and fell.
I really hope that now Danny Stato gives it up. You know what I mean? I
He's
hope
already
this
said he
is.
wants to come back. I don't think that's
Oh
gonna happen.
Christ! Oh, okay. Anyway, talk about Jacqueline. I'm not spending any more time talking about him. Ugh.
I just thought with the prop and the dancers, her performance in the heat and all the way through the heat rehearsals was so good, so slick. She nailed those high notes in her heat and in every single rehearsal. She performed every single time like she was performing in the final. And Jacqueline is a newcomer to Melfest. She's had some singles in the past, but this was her first attempt at Melfest. And I was just like, oh, this is special. She was
Until
also the
until
only,
it wasn't.
until it wasn't, she was also the only newcomer to make it direct to the final. Every single other person was a returning artist, which again, I was, you know, really impressed. She absolutely deserved to go direct to final. However, then we got to the final. We kind of knew it was looking bad for her. So in the final week, what normally happens is you have like a few rehearsals on the Thursday, you then have a couple of rehearsals on the Friday, and then you have the dress rehearsal Friday night, and then you do an afternoon rehearsal on the Saturday, and then you do the real thing. In the run up to the final, because obviously there were so many more artists performing than in the heats, there was just one big rehearsal on the Thursday, and we could kind of tell it wasn't going well. She was using playback. Daughter had done something similar when she'd got sick in the run up to her heat. And then on the Friday night when I was watching the rehearsal, which was the one the jury were voting in, she got to those kind of high kind of riff notes that she does at the end and those belty notes. And she was really holding back from them, which I understand. If you know you're not going to make them, probably better to do the notes that you can comfortably do within your range when you're sick and them sound decent than to try and do a note that you just know damn well you're not going to hit when you're sick and it just go really wrong. And that's what people remember.
Yeah.
However, it was noticeably not as good as in her heat. I
Yeah,
felt
it
so
was.
sorry for her because she hadn't put a foot wrong and then she got sick.
And you know what? I think the thing is with Jacqueline, and I know we just complained about returning artists and stuff like that, but I would love to see Jacqueline come back again because obviously the talent is there. And I do think she could deliver something really, really solid and really good for Sweden. I do think that there's a Melfest winner in Jacqueline. So, it was just really unfortunate how this worked out. And I think the year that she was in as well, this kind of being like the Melfest All Stars year, she was always kind of destined to be like stacked up against the odds the entire time. You know what I mean? Because Swedes are so shallow when it comes to Melfest voting at times. The returning artists are always kind of given like a little extra boost by the Swedish public. So she kind of had the odds stacked up against her, but I do hope she comes back.
Yeah, I totally agree. There's a tendency for voters to stick to what they know in
Yeah.
Melfest, which made it harder for her. But yeah, I really hope she comes back because I think if the only thing that was really stopping you from doing better was that you just had the misfortune of getting ill, and she still performed the heck out of it as much as she could, I'd really like to see her come back. And if she has a really good team with her, like obviously she did with this song, I think she'll
Yeah.
be a force to be reckoned with, and I hope that we do see her again. I was actually impressed that she got fourth with the juries, even with those kind of vocal issues, because, I really thought the juries were going to tank her, and actually they were quite kind to her.
The song is good enough that it stands out that it would still be rewarded, you know what I mean? But like it didn't all line up on the night.
Yeah, 100%. And you know what? Juries don't just vote on your vocal, they vote on staging and performance and all that stuff. And
Yeah.
those things probably helped her out because it looked great and she performed great. The song is a bop. So, she was never
hmm
going to be dead last or anything like that. But, she probably would have done a bit better if it hadn't been for those issues.
Yeah, 100%. I suppose then I'll move on to my third place. My third place actually is Heroes Are Calling by Smash Into Pieces, your fifth place. And this is, look, I'm always going to be a little bit biased to a rock song, especially in Sweden, because I think that Sweden do need to diversify what they have in Melfest. And you know what? Smash Into Pieces is a good start. I would like to see something a little bit harder and edgier. But look, I think I can kind of echo what you said. I think the song itself, it's okay. Like it's nowhere near as good as 6 Feet Under, but it's performed very well. It's got that kind of rocky hook that I really enjoy. So like I'm always going to give that a few bonus points. And they are a very good band. I have to give it to them. I quite enjoy them. They remind me a lot of like you said, Linkin Park. And Linkin Park for me was also kind of one of those bands that kind of shaped my listening experience or like my music experience. Now the album is slightly different to what to the one that you said.
That's
I'm
because there's
trying
a
to
9-year age difference between
yeah,
us.
I'm trying to remember the name of which album it was for me. Oh my god, I should know this. This was my like one of my first albums that I ever bought.
This is the one with
Oh,
Mum on it.
it was Living Things, 2012.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was like my introduction into rock. I will always kind of have like a soft spot for that kind of sound of rock. But yeah, this really wasn't as good as 6 Feet Under. I would really like them to come back and maybe even collab with an artist that could bring in some screamo into a song or something like that. I'd
Yeah.
love to see something like that. Like obviously if the lead singer of Smash Into Pieces can't scream, then bring someone in and just like have them feature on the track. There's ways about this, but just make it edgier, make it rockier, and I do think they would be rewarded for that. But yeah, this just really wasn't as good as 6 Feet Under. But still, it was a good song. Like if they hadn't entered with 6 Feet Under last year, I would have been like, oh, this is great. You know what I mean? So yeah, that's where I was at with Smash Into Pieces. MJ, who was your third?
This is really interesting because my third place is also your fifth place.
I feel like we're going to have pretty much the same top five,
Yeah,
but
I feel like we are, and I think feel like our top two is gonna probably be identical.
yeah,
Um,
I think so too.
but my third place was Que Sera by Medina. Obviously, I had my winner, and we'll talk about my winner in a bit, but I actually would have been really happy with Sweden sending something like this when they're the host country.
Yeah, in 2013.
No, I would be happy with them
No.
sending it now.
Jesus
mean,
Christ.
for me, when you're a host country
You send something that's
nowadays,
10 years dated. Come
no,
on.
hear me out. My feeling is that, like, when you're a host country nowadays, it's highly unlikely that you're going to get a double win. I don't think Sweden are going to get a double win. And I think that this was just bringing a party. And I feel like when you're the host entry, bringing a party is a great move. And
how, how did that work out for May?
I mean, May was bringing a party that
That
I mean, there was a
no one
conga
went
line in the
to.
green room, and she'll always have that. Bless her. I think Medina would have been a little better than May Muller.
Well, yeah, they can sing.
I will say, I did think they had quite a lot of pre-recorded backing vocal helping them. I think vocally there were stronger performances than
Mhm.
Medina were giving. I just think this is so much fun. And if you look at any footage of Friends Arena, this went off.
Yeah, it did.
People were going crazy for this. And I know it's a little bit of a kind of FIFA World Cup song, but hey, I love a World Cup summer. I love sitting in a beer garden, 6 pints in, watching my team crash and burn in the quarters or the
I
semis. I
I
live
love
for those
I
moments.
love sitting in a beer garden watching your team crash and burn.
Where's your team? Where's your team? Oh yeah, they didn't qualify. Anyway.
Much like Eurovision. But yeah, I think it's been well established. I hate fun.
Yeah,
Like
you do.
that I don't tune into Eurovision to have a good time. Like
We can't expect the little emo boy to love Hey Sarah, can we?
absolutely not. No, I found it. But look, I get it. It would be fun as a host entry or whatever. It's just the least me coded song ever.
Yeah, I am quite partial to a song like this in Eurovision. I also have to give Medina a shout out at the end of their performance. They said, no one is free until everyone is free. I think it's probably
Yeah,
quite clear
look,
what they were alluding to with that comment.
mad
Yeah,
respect for that. To be on a thing as big as Melfest and to use your moment to
yeah.
platform the things that need to be spoken about that a lot of the broadcasters are just not speaking about at the moment.
Mm.
Props, props to Medina for that.
I also have
Um,
to give them props for their kind of interactions with Marcus and Martinez over the course of Melfest. They're so cute. They were always supporting each other with their songs. There was at one point during the dress rehearsal of Que Sera where Marcus and Martinez were stood on the sofa having a little boogie and they gave each other like huge hugs when their results came in. And I just think that's really sweet. Like they obviously seem to, there seems to be a lot of love there. And I just thought that was
yeah.
really sweet. I like
Well,
watching artists support each other in national finals in Eurovision. I just think it's cute.
yeah, yeah, I would agree with that. I think it's very nice to see. We will move on to our second place then. And if we're going to talk about artists that are absolute sweethearts, let's talk about Maria Sur.
She's my
because
second place too.
I knew it. She is just such a gem. She is so sweet and lovely, and she seems like such a lovely girl. You know what I
Mm.
mean?
And her
Like
Swedish has got so good.
her Swedish has gotten so good.
I say this as if I speak fluent Swedish. I don't speak any Swedish, but
Yeah,
she
I
was clearly
speak.
a lot more confident speaking it this year, and that
Yeah,
was amazing to see.
I think Maria Sura has an incredible career ahead of her because Maria was one of the very few people that came back this year with an entry that was a million times stronger than her entry last year. This was so good. When I'm Gone is just such a good banger of a track. It's got everything you would expect out of a Swedish Eurovision entry. Great vocals, great staging, great performance, great song. The structure of the song, the whole thing, it was just perfect. And she nailed it on the night. She absolutely nailed it in the final. Running order, I think, did kind of screw her over a little bit. The fact that she had to open the show. I think if Maria Sur had been where Jacqueline was, she was kind of looking at maybe like a top four, top three finish. It was just so good. It was so good. And like, I really, really hope that she maybe takes a break from Melfest next year and then comes back with something incredibly strong in 2026. Because this girl, I'm going to put my out on a limb right now and just say I think there's a Eurovision winner in Maria Sur at some point. I really do. She's that good. Like she's so young, and this is what we're getting already. She's got an insanely good career ahead of her. She's going to do so well in Sweden, across Scandinavia, and eventually, fingers crossed, Europe and the world, because this girl, not to be kind of ignored, she's going to do some incredible things. MJ.
Yeah, I can only echo what you said. I definitely think that we could be looking at a future Eurovision representative in Maria Sir. She's 19 and
Oh, Jesus. She's a
I know I feel
baby.
so old. Um, but she so old and so untalented. Um, she blew me away with her performance throughout the entire process of Melfest this year. When I'm Gone is head and shoulders above Never Give Up. And yes, part of that, obviously, credit has to go to the songwriters. You know, it's got that kind of dark, kind of futuristic kind of vibe to it. And, you know, I was almost, when I heard the sort of reviews of the song and people sort of describing what it was like, I was like, oh, okay. Because that's not what the vibe of Never Give Up was at all. And I almost
Hmm.
worried at first that did she have the kind of edginess and the kind of experience as an artist to really pull off a song like that? But she absolutely did. You know, she was so slick and never faltered the entire time. To be as young as she is and be able to just deliver knockout performance after knockout performance of that song, so impressive. And yeah, I really think that if she maybe takes a little break and comes back with something as strong, if not stronger than When I'm Gone, she'll kill it. You know, really
Yeah.
the only thing stopping her was there was a clear far and away winner, and really it was theirs to lose. And we'll probably be talking about them in a little while.
Yeah, we will.
But also the running order as well. Going out first, it's highly unlikely that you're going to win from that position with 12 songs.
It's the thing with Melfest and MGP.
Yeah.
Like, the voters have the memory of goldfish in these competitions. I'm convinced that Swedes and Norwegians can't remember like more than three songs.
That would
It's
explain the runoff vote results. I just like I don't even remember that song being here.
yeah, they just can't remember them.
They're
Like
watching the recap going, whoa, that one sounds great. Prove me wrong, people of Sweden.
hmm.
Send the song that comes first. I think this would have been a great host entry as well. And it's just unfortunate that it wasn't meant to be this year. But I really hope she comes back. And Can
Yeah.
we talk about the staging, those lights?
So good.
It
So good.
it reminded me, and this will be a perfect segue, I think, to talk about what I imagine is both our winners. Lighting, staging wise, it really reminded me of Air last
Air.
year. Air, you know.
Yeah, I guess that leads us on perfectly to talk about our winners. The boys, the
The twins.
twins.
I love
Marcus
that
and
everyone collectively calls them the twins as if they're like
me too.
relatives.
Me too. I love the twins. Yeah,
Go on, the twins.
Marcus and Martinez with Unforgettable. Oh my God. This was so good. I've seen a lot of people who say this isn't as good as Air. I think this is on the same level as Air personally. I wouldn't say it's better than Air because I think Melfest had two Eurovision winners last year. I think Air was also a Eurovision winner. This song in this year, not a Eurovision winner, right? This is not winning Eurovision, especially after we got the running order today. Sweden are opening the show. The Swedes aren't going to even remember their own entry.
No, luckily they
Like
can't vote for their own entry in Eurovision, so it
yeah,
doesn't matter.
like they're opening the show, so I really don't see them pulling a double off here. But Jesus Christ, this is good, and it's really slick and put together, and one of the best stagings I've ever seen in a national final. By the way, wow, this staging was so good. The boys looked great. I love whoever is Marcus and Martinez's stylist for Melfest. They just get it right every time. The twins looked so good last year, and they looked so good this year. Their fits are so good,
Their
and
fashion game is on point. I'm so excited to see them on the turquoise carpet.
oh my God, I cannot wait to see them on the turquoise carpet. And that's not just because, like, I like me a little bit of Martinez, but like, I'm very, very excited to see what they bring. They just seem like two really lovely lads. You know what I mean? The song itself, it's very similar to Air in how it's structured,
Air.
but shut up. It is very similar to Air Out Structured. It's the same kind of, first chorus is a little bit quiet and then it hits our first verse. Then the chorus is kind of like a bit of an oomph and then it picks up in the next verse and then a big chorus and then a really sudden finish. This was just really, really good and I really enjoy it. And see, the thing is, Marcus and Martinez have been doing this since they were like what, like 12? They've been in the game for like over a decade or like a decade at this point. They know what they're doing. They've been like primed for this their entire lives, pretty much. And you can see it. They're very professional on stage, they're very slick, but they do also just come across as two really nice guys. Seeing them win and how emotional they got and them giving their mom a hug and stuff, it was just so sweet. They are just like two guys that you want to root for. I hope that this does well. I really hope that the running order doesn't kind of screw them over and they don't do that well. I do think that this has the potential to kind of finish like a good top 10 for Sweden in Eurovision. So yeah, you know what? Great song, great entry. Once again, Sweden, slick, polished pop. It's what they do so well. And as much as we've said some, things about how Melfast needs to change, it produces a really good, slick, polished pop song every year for them to send. So, but yeah, I love it. MJ.
This is my winner too. At first, when I heard the snippets of the songs, I wasn't sure when I heard kind of the little 30-second clips that SVT released. I was like, oh, I really don't like this as much as Air. I loved Air last year. If it wasn't for Tattoo, it
Yeah.
would have been Air. And
Air was my runner up and it was close. Like I love and like how much I love Tattoo, but it was close. Like I really
yeah,
love Air as well.
yeah, same. And I was like, oh, I don't know if I like this as much. I'm not sure this is going to be as good. Oh, damn. And then I saw the first rehearsal of it for Heat 5, and I saw the staging, and Liv DM'd me and was like, okay, this is winning. And I was like, yeah, this is definitely
Yeah.
winning. That staging is the best staging that we've seen so far, I think, this year. There's obviously a lot of songs that we haven't seen staging for yet. So we don't,
100%.
but that staging is far and away. Like, if I were a delegation, not Sweden, looking at that staging, I'd be going, oh crap. Like, I need to
Yeah.
step my game up because
Yeah.
dear God, that it's just so good. And I thought as well that the boys just seemed the boys. I'm saying this like they're my little brothers or something. But I thought they just seemed
They're all of our cousins.
they're all
They're
of our distant cousins. They're our cousins from Norway, and we're like, oh, go on, Marcus and Martinez, look at you go. But I thought they just seemed so much more confident as well. I thought vocally they were a lot more capable than I think I've seen them. And
I think also you're always going to feel more confident when you're in a Melfest that doesn't feature Loreen.
oh
You
yeah,
know what I mean? Like,
if I knew I was up against Loreen, I'd be like, oh, should I even show up today? Like,
yeah, like even like you look back at the results, they knew.
yeah,
Everyone knew. Everyone
everyone
knew.
knew. Yeah. And ironically, when Simon Falk, who obviously I've mentioned in this podcast earlier from Wee Wee Blogs, spoke to us in a space, he said that everyone kind of knew that this song was going to win. Ironically, everyone except Marcus and Martinez. They apparently the whole time were like, oh, I don't know, we're really nervous and we don't know how we're
Oh,
going to do. And that just warmed my heart so much. They truly do seem so humble. It doesn't seem like it's an act at all. They just have this earnestness about them. We're just going to show up and do our best and hopefully
which
it's good
is
enough.
strange. It's strange when you hear that from child stars. Do you know what I mean? Because that's the
Yeah,
last people you'd expect to be like humble, but they do. They just come across as really nice guys.
just lovely lads. I obviously, people who listen to the podcasts and spaces regularly will know I'm a teacher. Marcus and Martinez seem like they would have been a joy to have in class. They're just so sweet. And I don't know, I hope I get to meet them. And they just seem like the loveliest guys.
I hope I get to meet them as well.
I think we hope that for very different reasons, Adam. That's all I will say on that matter. But I think this is a great opener for Eurovision, which we now know it's going to be. I think from a kind of logistics competition perspective as well, probably a good move because that sort of big corridor structure that they have is probably going to take quite a lot of time to assemble and move around. And having it
Yeah.
first is probably going to be a really good thing for SVT in terms of having the hosts sort of somewhere else talking and then having it assembled behind them.
Yeah.
We're not going to have what we had, with Tattoo, where there had to be kind of a big break while they wheeled on the Lorini press, as I call it. Yeah. And I do wonder, and I was going to ask you about this actually, how do you think that the changes to when televotes can happen might affect them being first?
You know what? I don't think that is going to have an impact at all because, like, we can look for, like, I think it was 2010, 2011. The later songs did still get rewarded better.
Yeah.
So I don't see it having a massive impact, but I do think it will mean that, like, we're not going to get like another "Who the hell is Edgar" moment where like a song that really didn't deserve to just flop in the televote does. So I think they will get a respectable score in both. I think genuinely, like, I could see a top 10.
Me too.
I don't see them pushing for a top 5.
No.
I think a solid 8th.
Yeah, same. And I think that would be good for this year because it's a really solid year.
Oh, 8th this year is like top 3 most years.
And 8th
Like,
is a host country as well.
yeah, getting top 10 as a host country is great. So yeah, I think to be honest, I think the boys would be so happy with 8th. Like,
I think they're just happy to be there, right?
Yeah.
I really hope that they do well with both because I don't want there to be like a green room cut to Marcus or Martinez looking sad because
I couldn't deal with it.
that would break my little heart. I think
Yeah.
they just seem so lovely. I want only good things for them.
And that good thing being me. But Martinez, if you're listening, hi. They are deserving winners. I think they've come 2 years in a row with great, slick, dark pop songs, and yeah, I'm really enjoying Marcus and Martinez in Melfest, and I cannot wait to see how they probably won't change much with the staging, but like how they elevate this to a Eurovision stage.
Yeah, definitely. I can't see this changing much, but it really doesn't need to. It's
No,
perfect.
yeah, agreed. So I guess then we can move on to honorable mentions. Like I said, I only have one. We kind of messed up the structure of this because we were going to talk about the whole runoff vote thing after our top five, but obviously we've already talked about that.
We
So
just felt so angry about it that we had to talk
yeah,
about it.
we will run through our honorable mentions, and then I suppose then MJ really that's it from Melfest, isn't it?
Yeah,
Um,
probably.
okay, so yeah, we'll go through our honorable mentions of the stuff that didn't make it to the final that we really enjoyed. For me, there was only really one song that I connected with that didn't even get into the runoff vote, and that for me was Leah Larson and 30 kmh, or as I just called it, Dunk Dunk, when I was very drunk in Manchester. But this was so good. I love this kind of music. It was just fun and a little cheesy and great. I don't understand how this didn't make it to at least the runoff vote. I was very sad. A great song, really well performed. And I would really like to see Leah Larson come back, because if she's just going to bring me what basically was the female version of Echo Mai, then like keep it coming. Keep it coming, honestly.
One thing that this edition of Melfest has made me realise is that I'm a big fan of Epidunk, which
Yep.
is the Swedish genre of music that we've seen with Leah Larson this year. And also my honourable mention, although I will say I have a couple more, but my main honourable mention is Frökensnusk with Unga and Freya. I think it is an absolute travesty that that song was number one on Spotify Sweden's Viral 50 for 3 weeks after its heat. And in that runoff vote, it didn't make it because the Heat 5 entries made it through. If your song is huge in Sweden and you still don't make it through because people have severe recency bias, that just goes to show how much that format doesn't work. And listen, I know that Andrew Johnson had its flaws and that maybe that needed a shake up as well. But I don't think this was the way to go. And I feel so sorry for Broken that it turned out the way it did. I think Hunger and Freya is such a fun song. The staging was just bonkers. And I think
Hmm.
it would have been so cool to see Sweden send something like this. It's so not
Mm.
what we expect from Sweden. I really hope she comes back. I just hope that the whole experience hasn't jaded her from ever pursuing it again. Because I can see how it would, to
Yeah.
come all the way to Karlstad, probably pretty sure she was going to get through, and then to basically come to sit on a sofa and then go home.
Yeah.
I can totally understand if this puts her off royally and she never does it again.
Unless she comes back as a duo with her new best friend.
Oh, are we also going to talk about my other honorable mention?
Let's talk about her.
The Queen.
Oh, Gunilla. Gunilla.
Mother.
What a mother. Gunilla is everything I've ever needed in my life. Her backstory and her lore is incredible. And she's everything. I need Gunilla back. I love that song. It's so stupid. It's
I
so
Won't
fun.
Shake is ridiculous.
It's so
I
good.
I couldn't believe what I was watching during rehearsals. Just this lady, and she was like a supermodel in the 80s. Like, Ganilla is gorgeous, but just
Hmm.
this lady in her 60s standing there in a sparkly frock while a load of camp cowboys dance around her.
Incredible.
Oh, just what this competition needs.
Oh, 100%. 100%.
And I kind
Like,
of love that her and Snusk became like besties.
the look that they gave each other at the end, I think, said it all about the state of Melfest voting this year.
Yeah, me and you like to joke as friends that we can kind of communicate with each other just with a look. Froken and Ganilla communicated so much with just that
Yeah,
one look. And that's very impressive because Froken Snusk, you couldn't even see her whole face.
literally.
She had a
But
balaclava on, but just her eyes, she was like, right. And Ganilla was right there with her. Oh, I
yeah,
love them both so much.
yeah, two queens.
I
And
also
I,
have to
oh
give a little
yes,
shout out to someone else that we both embraced with open arms when we watched Heat 5 together. I don't know if you remember.
another mother.
Another mother, Electra with
Miss Electra
Banamai.
girl. Miss Electra, Banamai,
Oh,
so good, so camp, so fun, so shit. Come back, Electra. Come back next year. That was great.
I also have to give a shout out to Electra because Banamai is so silly. For about a week after, I was just going, Banamai. I could just run.
Literally.
But I do have to give a shout out to Electra because her mug was on point. And it wasn't just on point for her Heat performance. She showed up looking like that for every single rehearsal. And her makeup was always just perfect.
Hmm.
That is not easy. She turned it out every single time. I love her and I hope that she comes to Eurovision anyway. Just, I would love to see Electra just in Euro Club. And if I hear this in Euro Club, I am not going to be well.
So fair. So fair. I think that is the perfect place to wrap this up on Electra and Ganilla, the true winners of Melfest, the winner in our hearts of Melfest 2024. And that is it for national final season. So we will be back when I feel like recording a podcast again.
/ when I drag you and say we need to do an episode.
Yeah, exactly.
Give the people what they want.
Is it what they want?
Yes, we're great.
Yeah, so we will be back very, very soon, probably talking about a few internals.
Yes.
So do stay tuned for that. And yeah, thank you so much for listening, and we will see you all very, very soon.
We will see you all very soon. Before you go, or before we go, you're not going anywhere unless you're just clicking away your Spotify. Don't forget that you can follow us on our Twitter at the Phoenix ESC. That is also the handle of our Instagram. And do check out our website, phoenixesc.com. We've been posting tons of articles, tons of content, and we are going to continue to do so in this kind of lull period between national final season and Eurovision itself. And some of us will also be going to some pre-parties, so we're going to have content generated from that as well. So do make sure you follow us so you're not going to miss a second of that. And one more thing, Banamai! Okay, bye-bye everyone.
Bye, guys.